Who wants to walk out into the ocean and never turn back? It's poetic, visually striking, and lets you avoid the responsibilities associated with real life. The only downside is that the ocean can be cold in places, and humans only last so long without oxygen. Oh, and there's also the possibility of running into indescribable horrors that have adapted to a cold and dark life that we could never comprehend. Yeah, that's rough too. We listed some classic and modern aquatic creatures last time, and now we're back with more. More movies, more water, more monsters. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're gonna be counting down the top 5 aquatic horror movie monsters part 2. Let's get to it. Coming in at number 5, we've got Grabbers from Grabbers. There should be a more scientific name for these brutes, but I haven't heard an accurate description yet. Well, not more accurate than grabbers anyways. They're weird, fleshy masses of tentacles and blood-sucking tongues who kill whatever they can get their tendrils on. At first, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. They take down a bunch of whales and lay some eggs in the sand, but they only subsist on blood and water, so there's no way they could make it on land and kill a bunch of folks, right? Well, unless they show up on a remote, rainy Irish island, and then they can flop around to their greasy little heart's content, now couldn't they? Uh-oh. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, from little floppy baby ones that might end up attached to you like an oversized leech, to mid-sized mama ones who could hypothetically drain all the blood from you after grabbing your head, to gigantic, truck-sized, swirling balls of limbs who can tear vehicles apart and swallow people whole. Yeesh. And they're rolling out of the water? That's bad news. The one saving grace is that they're so purely dependent on blood and water that alcohol can really mess them up. Feeding them booze straight up is a bit of a challenge though, considering they're extremely aggressive predators, but there's a workaround. If your blood alcohol level is high enough, they won't want to drink it. And if they do, they'll get knocked the fuck out. Classic. I always knew drinking in excess would save my life someday. These rules don't apply to other horror movies, unfortunately. Drink too much, you probably get stabbed. Oh, and the big ones can definitely still kill you even if you're plastered. Yeah, they might just slap you to kingdom come with one of their many tree-sized tentacles. Maybe postpone the Irish vacation until all the beaches are cleared of eggs, eh? Hey, if you're liking this video so far, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps us with the algorithm. Let's keep it moving. Coming in at number 4, we've got Becky and Harry from Creepshow. Can you hold your breath for a long time? Because if not, you'd better get to training. Because if you ever run into a ruthless rich man, or if you ever become one, you might find yourself neck deep in sand and watching the tide come in.
If you can hold your breath, if you can hold your breath.
This one comes from the short Something to Tide You Over. Of course, the millionaire himself, Richard Vickers, is only the beginning of this aquatic horror story. After finding out that his wife Becky has been unfaithful to him, Richard lures her lover Harry out to a secluded beach and buries him alive at gunpoint. Becky gets buried too, and they're all connected by CCTVs. Richard heads back up to his luxurious estate and watches the two panic as the tide inches closer and closer. And hey, if they can hold their breath long enough, they might be able to wriggle out once the water covers them and loosens the sand. Eesh. Well, they do find a way to get free, but not as living, dry human beings. No, they come back as waterlogged, revenge-seeking seaweed people. Guns can't hurt them. Punches can't hurt them. They can't be stopped, and they stink of seawater and rotten fish. Becky and Harry, together forever, rotting and sloshing. Yuck. They do indeed get their revenge too. They bury old Richard neck deep in sand, letting him experience the same fate they did. But remember, if he can hold his breath for a really long time, maybe he'll find a way out. Or maybe, just maybe, he'll end up waterlogged and revenge-fueled too. Such classic horror themes here, eh? You reap what you sow, you can't get away with everything. Coming in at number 3, we've got the creature from Leviathan. Widely underappreciated, Leviathan is a wonderful work of special effects mastery. The underwhelming plot might have something to do with its relatively small renown, but there are enough wicked scares and awesome creature moments to make up for that. The movie got a lot of flack when it was released for being really similar to Alien and The Thing, but who the hell considers that a bad thing? Moving on, let's talk about the creature itself. After an underwater mining crew comes across a scuttled Russian ship, Leviathan, things start to go sideways. After 2 of the crew succumb to extremely strange circumstances, it becomes apparent that the Russian crew from the Leviathan had some weird stuff done to them. Something about mutagens and tainted vodka for sure, but soon enough the underwater mining crew starts seeing these strange effects. Whatever was in that booze is now out and about assimilating crew members. You'd think liquor was safe, but this isn't Grabbers. It starts small, but manages to remain terrifying and fascinating throughout every possible iteration. The transformation this creature goes through are incredible. Like, it's a shame more folks don't watch this movie just for the practical effects. There's a slimy lamprey version that eats its way inside a man and then becomes a terrible tentacle beast. It manages to spread even further, infecting more folks with even more eye-popping mutations. Eventually we have a full-blown flesh and blood alien monster thrashing around in the underwater station. It even manages to pop up to the surface and attempt to drown the folks who escaped. They just don't make them like this anymore. Coming in number 2, we've got Dagon from Dagon. The classic monster from the deep. Originating from the Lovecraftian canon, Dagon is a deity who rules over the deep ones. The folks of Innsmouth worship him, people outside the town fear him, and of course he makes a terrifying appearance in a Stuart Gordon Lovecraft adaptation.
I wish I never see.
Innsmouth is exchanged for Imboca though, and the esoteric order isn't named as such, but the terrifying nature of the beast remains. After falling on hard times, the villagers of Imboca are convinced to worship Dagon instead of God. This allows them to return to prosperity, but at the cost of blood sacrifices. Dagon demands human women to breed with, until all the regular humans die off, leaving only the half-human, half-sea creature abominations to populate the village. These creatures are horrid in their own special ways, with slimy fish heads and awful screeches galore. None of the lesser beings compared to the big bad himself though. While only making brief appearances in the movie, Dagon's presence is overwhelming. He permeates every aspect of the sleepy, creepy village as our protagonists discover more and more awful details. The sacrifices and rituals he demands are pretty filthy too. Skin flaying is just the beginning, but it's also shown in full gruesome detail. Lovecraftian creatures thrive on our own fears and being beyond comprehension. Dagon's effect on the humans that come into contact with him is scary in its own special way, even if we never really see the entire creature. And coming in at number 1, we've got Cthulhu from Underwater. And speaking of Lovecraftian creatures, why not cap off the list with the legendary Great Dreamer himself? That's right, we are talking about one of the biggest, baddest creatures out there. Somehow awakened for a guest appearance at the end of this recent aquatic horror flick Underwater, the Great Old One is truly magnificent. For most of the movie, the audience doesn't even know it's Cthulhu. It's a secret Lovecraft story, says director William Eubanks, and some folks don't quite pick up on that fact. But still, it's Cthulhu in all of his ghastly glory. An underwater drilling facility is badly damaged following a wicked earthquake at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. First of all, what are you doing down there? It's not worth it. Things only get worse from there, with strange creatures dragging folks into the murky depths on top of the inherent water pressure threat. The little beasts take all sorts of forms, from unrecognizable masses to vaguely humanoid shapes. But of course, the most terrifying monster of all is the enormous tentacled Great One, Cthulhu. He's the one who's been spawning all the smaller monsters, and he's pretty pissed that there are humans near his abode. Running into something so mind-bendingly horrible so deep underwater is a nightmare no matter how you look at it. And the worst part is, after everything happens, the mining and drilling efforts look like they're ready to expand. Who knows what they'll wake up next. And now we don't know if vodka will help or hurt us. Oh, the humanity. So what'd you think of the list? Which aquatic monster scares you the most? What's the best water-based horror movie? Have you ever seen something beneath the waves you wish you didn't? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more mysterious ones from the top 5 horror movies you had to quit halfway. Don Pandemoniac says, haven't seen any of these, looks like I've got homework. Cue 'em up, it's time for an uncomfortable horror movie marathon. Bloody Locks Bathory says, lol, the moment that had me look away in Raw was the Suiero Maruo style eyeball licking. Right? Just casually downing a full cup of vodka and then licking someone's retina. We love it. Damien says, I have 4 out of 5. Love them. Never quit watching any movie for any reason. That's hardcore, very nice. But what if your house was burning down? Or like, what if you had like a last minute paper you forgot about? What then? PD says, what does it say about me that I watched this eating chocolates? I guess it depends on the chocolate. Probably just means you really like chocolate. And Gweebox3 says, I usually am not affected by gore, but I have to say that I actually stopped watching Terrifier after the hacksaw scene. It was just too much for me, and yet I just watched the Evil Dead remake last night with no serious moral repercussions. Call me weird. Nah, there's definitely a difference between watching demon-influenced Bloodstorms and watching a demented clown tear apart a bunch of people for no good reason. Context matters. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I swallow a mouthful of thumbtacks, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more liquid lunacy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.